Hey, what's going on? This is Pastor Nate. Hope you guys have been enjoying Is That a Man? We've been having some kind of conversations, but coming up this week, we have a special. Is That a Man? The Talk. You know, with what's been going on in our country with Brother Ahmad and Sister Brianna, people have been saying, have you had the talk? Have you had the talk with your son? Have you had the talk with that daughter? And I was thinking about, what is the talk? Did I have the talk and I didn't realize I had it? We're going to get together with some people from all different generations and discuss, what is the talk? Have you had it with your daughter? Have you had it with your son? Stay tuned. We're going to talk about it. Is that a man? The talk. Hey, what's going on? This is Pastor Nate. We're back with another episode of Is That a Man? The Shield. And we decided to kind of switch it up with what's going on in our culture during this time. And we had kind of planned on doing a special episode. So this is a special episode this evening of Is That a Man? But we're calling it The Talk. And I appreciate you gentlemen being here with me this evening. The Talk. You know, coming up, we're all around somewhere in the same age demographic. And as y'all came in this evening, I kind of said, hey, we're going to talk about the talk. And everybody kind of snickered and kind of smiled. I guess everybody had a different rendition of the talk. My son, who is 11, about to hit puberty, his mom went out and bought him this book the other day and handed it to him. And it's talking about becoming a teenager. And he looked at it and he said, Mom, no need. My Uncle Jeff told me everything I need to know. Now, if you know my boy Jeff, his Uncle Jeff, that conversation could have gone this way or that way. She said, what do you think he said to him? I said, let's just pray. Let's just pray about it. But now in these days and times, just in our culture, in our society, the talk means something different. I was telling somebody the other day, I can remember, I think it was 1995. My wife, Elder T, and I, we were still dating, and we were coming back from one of our dates, and an officer pulled us over in the car. And he said, I need your license and registration. And he said, I need you to get out of the car. And I said, I'm not getting out of the car. He said, what do you mean you're not getting out of the car? I said, I'm not getting out of this car. He said, I'm telling you to get out of this car, and you mean to tell me you're not getting out? I said, I'm not getting out. And I reached to pick up my cell phone. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm calling my dad. He said, what is your dad gonna do? I said, you're gonna find out when he gets here. I said, but I'm calling my dad. Now, 95, and looking back over my life, and when I truly think things over, I can say I'm blessed. Yep. I got a testimony. Yep. I don't know if that was the right thing to do, looking back now in 2000 and looking in 2020. And so people talking about, oh man, you gotta have a talk with your son. You gotta have the talk about this. And I'm kind of like, what is the talk? You know, my best friend Jeff, he's taking care of one of the talks, but I guess as dad, I got to do the other one. And so I'm kind of figuring out what is the talk. And then talking to just some different men and asking the same question that I'm going to ask you men today is, what's the talk? It seems like the talk has changed from generation to generation to generation. And so 2020, let's kind of define what's the talk. So Marcus, what would you say the talk is?
Well, the talk for me, at the end of the day, I have two African American male children.
Okay.
At the end of the day, for them to come back home safely,
okay,
is my number one objective.
Now, how do you communicate that? So, is there a game plan how to come back safely? Is there what's that plan? I don't know what it is.
So what we do is we give situational. I have one that is driving, and like that situation that you're just mentioning when you got pulled over. If that were to happen, we have the talk. You keep your hands at 10 and 2. Do not remove your hands off that wheel. And so I don't want you to give that officer that stopped you any provocation that you are a threat, because from my experience, African American males are guilty out the gate.
Okay.
So you're already at the playing at a negative.
Okay.
So I want you to really, truly be overbearingly on the positive side.
Okay.
Meaning, you don't take your hands off that steering wheel. You have that conversation. Address the authority, not the person. You may not like the person, but you address the authority. So yes sir, no sir, things of that nature. And really, truly, if you are in a situation and you feel threatened, if they're pulling you over and you feel threatened, you have the right to pull over into an area where it's lit, it's maybe populated, so you can feel more comfortable in that area. So we really try to give situations, and he'll say, but what if this? And I'll try to give my best ability to be able to answer that question. But you know, at the end of the day, there's certain situations that we can't plan for.
Now, Marcus, how old are you?
I'm 46.
Okay, as a 46-year-old, as a 46-year-old black male, is that a conversation your dad had with you? And was it necessary?
Well, see, for me, my conversation that I had happened after an incident.
Okay.
I was about
age?
I was about 12, 13. So in New York, in upstate New York, it would snow, and it wouldn't be until May until you can ride your bike that you got Christmas, right? So I got a bike that Christmas. This was around the time where the BMX bikes and the trick bikes, freestyle bikes was really, really, really hot. So my dad bought me a very expensive bike. And it was mid-May, around this time frame, where the first time I really got out to ride my bike. So it was me and 3 of my friends. We were riding, and we left our neighborhood and went into a predominantly white neighborhood.
Okay.
A cop pulled the 4 of us over, and he pointed to me and said, "Where'd you get that bike?" I said, "It's my bike. This is my bike." And he proceeded to say, "No, you can't have a bike like this." And he physically took me off my bike and took my bike from me and put it in the trunk of the police car. And so at that point, I'm really feeling, I don't know what to feel, right? This grown male just took my bike. So I called my father, and he asked me where I was, told him where I was, and the next thing I know, it seemed like a minute he was there, but I don't know how long the time elapsed. And he came driving up, and he picked me up, and we went to the police station. And the way my dad was ripping them a new one, and so after that, a whole ordeal, and I got my bike back, and he made the cop apologize to me and everything. So in our ride back to the house, we had the talk.
Okay.
And the talk was, for one, if you're ever pulled over, this is my dad, and right or wrong, he'd always said, you know what? If you're ever pulled over anything, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Ask for your lawyer, or if because I was still a minor, ask to speak to your parents.
Okay.
He said at that point they cannot talk to you, period. They're not supposed to ask you another thing. And if they do ask you another thing, when I show up, I need to know about it.
Right.
And so he gave me some more, tips about, don't give the law anything to go on. Don't provoke them. Don't hanging out in corners. Don't do this. And it was a lot of do's and don'ts. It wasn't things that, you know, and I used to wonder, you know, is this what everyone got?
Right.
So that was kind of my introduction to the talk. Yeah.
The Officer Mike. Now, you being off, do you think the talk is necessary?
I do think it is, honestly.
Okay.
And I feel terrible for Marcus going through that because, honestly, an Italian kid from New York, I didn't go through that.
Right.
Seriously, I didn't. So nowadays, working in certain areas, predominantly Black or Hispanic areas, people might feel threatened by us. And I can't tell you the amount of times I come across someone that instantly they're putting their hands up if I'm talking to them.
Right.
But we've talked,
Right.
and I'm not threatening you.
Right.
Like, you're not threatening me. I'm a normal dude.
Right.
But people don't see that, though. They see what they might see on social media or TV, and they're gonna think that if I make the wrong move, this cop's gonna flip out, something's gonna happen. And it's unfortunate that it's gotten to that way. And I think it is a necessary talk. It really is.
So what is the talk? What would you say as an officer? What would you say is
I guess
that talk?
like you said about the whole 10 and 2, but you know what? Even I do that. I've been pulled over. I should say I've been pulled over since I've been a cop, and even me, it's a weird feeling. Like I'll even be like, oh man, I'm about to get a ticket, something like that. It's not. For me, it might not be a race thing.
Right.
I could say it's not going to be, but I'm still nervous, and your nerves will make you do stupid things that you would never even do. Like you said, reaching around. So keep your hands like that, of course. And honestly, it's just common courtesy now. A lot of people, and it's not even. It's sad. It's not even younger generations. It's just people in general now don't have that common respect.
Right.
I'm just trying to do a job. That's
Right.
all. I want to go home to my family.
Right.
Like, I know you want to go home to your family.
Right.
And that's it. It's just be respectful. I mean, if they're doing something negligent or wrong, it's your right, especially as a citizen, to be like, I want to speak to your supervisor. And if they say no, well, then you're going to speak to that supervisor, and then email the chief. I'm not saying to do that because you might get someone jammed up, but that's how it happens, for real. And then that cop will get talked to, and it will be an issue. So it's just, I think, like you said, the talk is just being respectful. I hate to say it, like getting pulled over, not moving around, everything. And I really hate to say it, but there's some cops that they might not have life experience where, you know, there might not be cops that they didn't box growing up or wrestle growing up. I wrestled growing up. I've been in fights. Not proud, I've been in fights. There's some cops that they get out of the academy, they've never been in a fight or been in a situation where they might feel threatened. So their senses might be up here when I hopefully can be down here.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I can handle this, but they're automatically like up here.
Right.
And that's scary for me though,
Yeah.
because there are people like that, and you wonder like, did you get into the wrong profession? So I think they have to have a talk though.
Right.
Their parents have to talk about, hey, this might not be for you as well.
Right.
You know, growing up, I want to be an officer. Well, you might take a different route.
Right.
I'm just saying. So. But,
Now I saw a picture that, and I don't know how long ago it was, on social media. And the guy who passed,
Yep.
has since passed.
Ben,
He's a
yep.
big guy.
Ben,
And
yep.
you guys are taking a picture together. You're like, hey, this guy just, and y'all were like,
Yep.
we're cool. I'm not saying y'all were friends,
Yep.
but y'all posed for a picture. What do you think made him feel I could come back and take a picture with this officer who arrested me one time, and y'all are smiling, and he's doing, I mean, he's a big dude.
He's jacked, dude, yeah.
He was really jacked.
So Ben, man, God rest his soul, honestly. I mean, so he had some warrants, and I had good rapport with him on the streets because he abused drugs his whole life. 50-year-old dude, abused drugs. That's all he did though, and he did a bunch of time in prison. But I didn't judge him for that, and he liked that. He respected me for that. So when I found out he had warrants, I figured, oh, he's my boy. I can talk him into, like, I'm not gonna have to mess with this dude at all because I don't want to mess with. I was like, man, this dude, he might beat the brakes off me.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
So I was like, all right. And then we ended up having thank God I have a little bit of a wrestling background that helped me out, and had some buddies that came, helped me get him into custody and everything. And he actually got clean after that for about 40 days because he did his time in jail. And after that, I saw him on the streets, and he dapped me up. He's like, I appreciate what you did for me. He's like, you treat me with respect, and not a lot of cops are gonna do that for him because they're gonna think, this guy just does drugs. No one cares about this guy. Who cares if he dies, lives, whatever. And that's the thing. I would give him some food, give him some water, whatever, because he's just like me and you.
Right.
You know, he went down a path that he's stuck on right now.
Right.
So, you know, it's just, he respected me, I respected him.
Gotcha.
He's a man like me.
Yeah.
So we just have a different path we took. So.
Yeah. Now, Mark, you are a white male.
Yes, I am.
Praise God. We just figured that out. But you are, and you're a super dope guy. I mean, your wife, she keeps us entertained on social media from time I wake up to time I mean, she is hilarious. I never knew her personality was that big. But anyway, you are a white male married to a black female.
Yes.
With biracial kids.
Yes.
And so is the talk that Marcus is talking about, is it the same in your household? And what does that look like? What does it sound like? What's that information?
It'll be very similar, but obviously I didn't grow up black. I'm not black. My father didn't teach me that. So what I've learned is, from my background, I grew up, I'm originally, my wife and I are from Gary, Indiana, 20 miles from Chicago. I was a minority in high school, and I ended up going to an HBCU, Kentucky State.
Did you?
In Frankfurt, yep. And so I got to learn culturally how to act in different environments with different ethnicities. So that helped me out tremendously, to know kind of signs of what to look for, to know how people act, whether you're Hispanic or black or Indian or whatever it may be. There's just a way that different cultures act. But for me, for having two boys and a daughter, what was interesting is,
How old is your oldest son?
22.
Okay.
And
Big guy.
Yeah. And he's been pulled over.
Yeah.
And the first, and all three of them at one time, they were in the car. They were going to take pictures. Cops came and said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "We're just taking pictures." "Well, you're not supposed to be here." They were at a mall. It was after hours, and it was just a good backdrop, nice lights, whatever. Take pictures. My daughter, she picked up the phone and said, "Mom, you and Dad need to get here." They had like 6 cops around them. Now, they weren't doing anything wrong, but again, they were scared. And unfortunately, they knew to talk, they knew to be respectful. But again, it's very difficult now for kids. When you see, even just today on the news, with the police officer put his neck, his knee on the person's neck, and he later died. The gentleman that was doing the bird watching in, I think it was Central Park, and the lady changed her whole attitude when she got on the phone with the police. And if it wouldn't have been for the video that he captured of her, no telling how that would have went down. So it's the same talk, but I didn't have any way to gauge what that should be like. Like I said, I've never been black, don't know what it's like to be black, but I do know what it's like to be have racism against me, whether it be prejudice against me. You go into Kentucky and your girlfriend is black. You get all types. So it's the same talk. It's I have my own version of it, my own slant to it. But it's, again, be respectful, 10 and 2, and do not give anyone a reason behind the badge. For me, I don't care what color the person is wearing the badge, because I've seen racism and prejudice on both sides. So my thing is, just do what you're asked.
I have a very interesting question that being the father of African American, mixed race children, right? But when I say African American, the society see your children as what?
They same as black.
Okay.
They same as black.
So when your children leave the house, or you have a young male, teenagers and things like that. How do you feel in this I guess this racial society when my child is going to be perceived as black?
I tell them, as soon as they leave the house, we're all creatures of visual perception. They're gonna see them for what they are until they open their mouth and change that opinion of what somebody has from them. And that's, so I tell them, make sure that you're, if it's yes ma'am, no ma'am, thank you, opening a door for somebody, whatever it is. And again, I think we had talked previously about being a son, but also a servant's heart, because if they'll see somebody, they'll open a door for them. If they, one of my children used to help the handicapped children at school. But the thing is, that mentality, they've stopped here. They know that what has happened is what they see on the media, in the news, and all the different things about how different ethnicities are treated. Right. But they have to take ownership themselves. They have to understand that they need to do something to change that. They can do it. If they move wrong and they're behind the wheel, they can get shot.
So let me ask you something. While we said, just to piggyback on, after you leave the house, is the first perception that people get of you. Is that fair? And when I say is that fair and playing devil's advocate, what's perception? Is it how you look? Is it how you're dressed?
I think it's a combination, yeah. It's both. It is. I mean, if I go, sometimes I go to the convenience store and cut off in some scraggly, clothes, and people probably think like, oh, this guy's bummy. But I do.
Where are young people today say, is that fair? This is me.
Not, yeah.
This is how is that fair? And I'm just throwing that out there for conversation. Is that fair?
It's not. No.
Fair and reality is two different things. Right. Is it fair? No, I don't think so. The content of someone's character has nothing to do with their appearance. Okay. However, you have to get past that. This is visual. We are very visual, and you see someone and you immediately have preconceived notions or kind of you're trying to find contextual clues for this person.
Okay. Is that across the board?
I think so.
I think so
because I can guarantee you that if you see somebody and they're out of place, and far be it for me to say who's out of place, but I mean, if you some people said you're black and you're riding a bike in a predominantly white neighborhood. The jogger who was black went to the predominantly white neighborhood. He was out of place. So people think because they're not used to seeing you, whether you're Indian or Hispanic or Jewish or whatever, it causes people to hold their pocketbook tight or get ready to have a cell phone to take a video of something or try to do a citizen's arrest. It shouldn't happen, but again, it happens. I mean, we're so far gone now. Social media and everybody with phones and people also, I'm going to do what I want to do because I'm who I am, and you can't tell me how to dress. You can't tell me not to wear cutoffs.
Across the board.
I think it's across the board.
Do you think an African American man with a hoodie on and a white guy with a hoodie on is the same? They give the same percent. So David Beckham with a hoodie on, he's a soccer player. He probably wears them all the time. And an African American with a hoodie on, you guys think that's the same perception? A skateboarder wearing a hat like I have on right now and pull it down, and with a hoodie on, you're saying same perception across the board?
No,
okay.
that is not.
Okay, that's why I wanted to clarify.
No,
so what are we saying?
What I'm saying is that contextually they're trying to find context for it. So I see African American with a hood on, and this media outlet has portrayed this African American with hoods that they're thugs, they're doing all kind of illegal activity and things like that. Whereas you see a white counterpart with a hood on, they're a skater, they're some other things. So contextually, from what we've been bombarded with through media, social media, and all these outlets, now our imagery that we have gotten over the years of our life, when I see that person jogging with a hood on, your mind immediately goes back to what you saw.
So is it fair for somebody that's their style? or that's how they dress, to have to give that much thought just to go out.
You know what? So on that point, my father, the haircut that I have right now, I've had it all my life. So through the years, and we've all come through the decades, high top phase, Gumbies, I could not get that. Because those hairstyles, the fads, the fashions, had a certain connotation to them.
But is that fair?
No, it's not fair.
at all.
So you missed out on having a flat top, Mark.
Never had it. Never had it.
Do it now. Do it now. You on your own.
no.
Go ahead. Do it. Redeem the time.
But my father was very forward thinking in that manner to the point that perception is everything. I was a young African American boy that was always clean cut. So from your perception, now, did I always do clean cut things? No. But I could be doing something not so clean, and my friend that had the fashionable hairstyle that was straight laced, he'll get accused all day.
Right. Do you ever have to say that to your kids?
Yeah, you know, I wanted my kids to have more. And the hair thing came up. I want them to have more manageable hair. And you've all seen my boys. Their hair's out there. They do different styles. They'll cut it. They'll grow it. They'll put the lines and all that. And I'm like, guys, I understand your individuality, but people are going to see you a certain way with those haircuts, because I grew up the same way with your father. I can understand where he's coming from, because you see certain things, or you see the pants sagging, or you see whatever it may be, the perception is already there just because of what we've seen in the general public. So, I mean,
so we're saying it's not fair? Because I like this hat on. I like this hat because I just like it.
Right.
And I grew up in the 90s. I grew up in Chapel Hill, but we always said just wear your hat real low. My wife wears her hat real low, and I just like, it's just the way I like it. I'm not trying to make any perception.
I think a big thing.
I just like it. Is it fair for me to have to give that much thought?
It sounds like social media and the news, all that stuff. It's like, I don't feel that way. I'm not gonna feel, oh man, like if I was a woman, I might clutch my purse or something. That's me, but some people, they perceive that. They're like, oh, this is what this person is gonna look like, so I'm gonna feel a certain type of way. Or like you said, a white kid that's wearing, you know, a hoodie with scraggly beard, it's like, oh, he's a skater kid, he's gothic or whatever. That might not be the case.
Right.
And I think it's just, like you said, perception and what people see, and they believe that. They're like, that's what that person's gonna be. But before you open your mouth and you're like you said, how smart and intelligent and loving and nurturing and how you are, they're like, no, I'm not gonna mess with that.
Right.
It's crazy though, you know?
Right.
it's just like we've all walked out of the house. For those of us who wear white beaters, we've all walked out with the white shirt on. Now I'll tell my kids, don't walk out the house with that on. You know, put a shirt on. Or, you know, and that's a different example, but you know, if people see you in your neighborhood and you're walking out, and I'm like, okay, I know you're carrying the trash out, but don't walk out just any kind of way. I'm not saying you have to brush your teeth and do that. I mean, if you're late and you're trying to get the trash out on Friday morning, run out there, but at least, you know, don't walk
Boys
out.
don't understand that.
Exactly. So
Cause I have the same talk with my sons. I'm like, hey, I just want to check the mailbox. Like, you can't go out and check the mailbox like that. Right. You can't. You just can't.
But my neighbor does it all day.
Yeah.
He cuts his grass with no shirt on. I cannot do that. Although I pay for that house, I can't do it.
Hey, you know what, Marcus? We gonna pray for you, man. You can't get no flat top, no dye, no rat tail, and you can't cut the grass. Man. I tell you what, we all get to heaven. Maybe the Lord will let you cut the grass with your shirt off, man, and grow a flat.
I don't even think that's what I want to do. Look,
At 46, me neither.
a rock jump up from that lump? Nah, that's not what I want to do. So I'm okay on that.
not the Rock.
No.
So how was it with you growing up, Mark? You said you were a minority in where you grew up, Gary, Indiana,
Yep.
home of Glenn Robinson.
And Michael Jackson.
And Michael Jackson.
Right.
Maybe somebody else famous comes from Gary. Michael Jackson.
Did you go to Roosevelt?
No, actually. What you know about Roosevelt? No, Lou
Yeah,
Wallace.
I know a lot about.
Lou Wallace, the only school, Lou Wallace.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So how was it growing up there?
You know, like I said, it was, you know, I mean, I played ball, you know, I listened to all types of music, you know, but then they'd be like, well, what do you know about that? You know, why you listening to rap? Why I can't listen to rap? You know, or, you know, I want a pair of high top, you know, back then high tops with the Jordan era, you know, pre-Jordan era and coming up through Jordan era. You know, it's just, it was tricky, but then, you know, being a minority at my high school, you know, I caught, you know, if something would happen in the news media then, I was one of the white kids. They were like, look what your people did. I'm like, hey, it wasn't me. You know, yes, I'm part of that race, but that's not who I am. Judge me on who I am, not what you think I am.
So what was the breakdown of your school?
Probably maybe 60-40.
60-40.
Maybe, yeah. And then at Kentucky State, it was, at that time in '86, I want to say it was the only predominantly white total enrollment HBCU.
Really?
And total enrollment, off campus, on campus, and it might have been like 51 and 49. I mean, and
Wow.
but then the on-campus life, because everybody came from Detroit and Louisville and Tennessee and Ohio, it was, on-campus life was predominantly black. So, and I stayed on campus.
What about your household growing up? Did y'all live in a predominantly African-American neighborhood?
It was mixed.
Mixed?
It was mixed, but it was mixed, but it was still predominantly black, but it was still mixed. I mean, you had Hispanics and other white families and so forth, and black families.
So I don't know, you know, we're talking and learning some history about, I didn't know you were not allowed to have a flat top. I did not, and we've been close for 17 years, man. And you find out, you see how you find out about your friends? That's the first thing you should have told me that when I met you 16 years ago.
So lead with that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hey,
all
I never
right.
had a flat top. You should have led with that.
All right.
So what was the demographics of your household as far as you married a black woman?
Right.
With your parents, if you don't mind me asking.
Oh, me and my father didn't speak for 10 years.
Really?
Because my parents are from Southern Arkansas. And for 10 years, he didn't speak. My wife and I, we got married. They didn't come to the wedding. My mom was still cordial. You know, she that's my son. I'm gonna love my son. But if I call home, Dad answered the phone, here's your son. He wouldn't talk to me. And the only way, and I know this happened, is I was praying and fasting with a church I used to attend, and we used to, the first 40 days we'd fast from 6 to 6, and at 6 p.m. we just, all of us would go around and we just pray and break the fast at 6 p.m. And I was walking, and all of a sudden it was just me and the pastor at that time, and I felt something break in the spirit. And then it wasn't a week later that my father called me and says, I'm not mad at you anymore. And we picked up just like we ain't never missed a beat, just like we been talking for the last 10 years. We made our reparation, or our reconciliation rather, because I just wanted them back in my life. 10 years. And at that time my son was probably 4, I guess, and now he's 22. So for until he passed in 2016, it was good. My daughter, who's now 18, she'd get up in his lap, Grandpa Smitty, can I have some of your iced tea? She'd just take his tea and drink it. Just my kids just melted their hearts. And it was peas and carrots from then on. So, but that was a rough 10 years.
Now, how was that with that reconciliation? How was that for your wife? Not talking after 10 years, talking to your parents.
My father, well, see, she would talk to my mom.
Your mom?
Yeah. Mom was kind of like the glue and still tried to hold it together. But, those two, they went out one day and they just handled whatever business they needed to handle between them. And after that, it was perfect. Wasn't a beat. It was just like she'd been in there, for the last 10 years.
That's
and
good.
he would love on them, love on her, and just Yeah, again, just like you turn the page. It was God just opened a door and touched his heart and restored that relationship to more than what I thought it could ever be.
That's dope. That's good. I'm not gonna call you Officer Mike. Mike,
No,
so
that's okay.
what was your background like growing up?
So my background growing up, had a mom and a dad.
Because you seem very comfortable in any environment.
I feel like I do, yeah. So I think honestly, growing up in New York helped me out with the ethnic. You have your ethnic neighborhoods. So you have like Italians, you have your Jewish, Indian, Puerto Rican, Dominican. Everything under the sun. It's the melting pot. It really is, and that translates into school. So I grew up going to school with every single race and ethnicity under the sun.
Where in New York are you from?
Queens.
Okay.
Yep. So that helped me out drastically. So I never really saw, that's my thing, I never really saw like a racial divide or like a color divide. And that's why, like, let's be honest, I love Now Church. I don't feel ever out of place. Like oh man, do people look at me a certain way? Because, there's, I don't feel like that. Because I feel like I get along with pretty much anyone.
Right.
So, and that's my thing. And then my parents didn't raise me to judge anyone like that. Who am I to judge anyone? So it was just, I had uncles, my dad had his buddies that I called uncles, black, Puerto Rican. It didn't matter what they were. And I respect those guys. I still talk to them today. So it's just, and like I said, I have a God-given grandma that lives down here, that's from New York, that she's black, and we don't consider, and we when I got baptized, when you baptized me, we talked about that, and you have, your blood family and your God-given family, and that's my God-given family, and there's no color in that. So there's no, we go places, there's no, this is my grandson, and people be like, but you're, and she's like, yeah, you got a prop.
They're not gonna say anything to her.
They're not gonna say anything. Right. So, because she was a gangster back then. She wasn't innocent. So but that's the thing though. Is I just feel like I grew up in a loving household like that we didn't judge anyone. So I just, I was raised, I feel, thankfully the right way where it's not off of color, it's not off of race, and then I feel comfortable around anyone,
What made you become a police officer? What made you decide to be a police officer?
So, my parents passed away when I was 18, and then I joined the Navy, did that for 7.5 years, and I love serving in any capacity. So, my ex-cousin-in-law, but I still consider my cousin-in-law, he actually works for Durham as well, for my agency. And I was thinking about going back from Florida to New York, and he said, hey, the cost of living is better down here. You think about, joining up over here. So I joined up over here, and I like serving. I like helping, and, that's why even something as, like, we went back to, like, I think the misconception is, like, taking a life. I always tell people I'd rather save a life than take a life. So my thing is, if I can save a life in a day, that's a good day at work, instead of taking a life. That might be some people's goal. I'm not gonna lie. But I just want to serve, and that's my way to serve the community. And I don't make a lot of money, but I feel good about what I do. So,
I was listening to a Facebook talk on my way over here. Do you guys think? Because I think that with me, I'm talking about my own personal experience, being from Chapel Hill, and a lot of the people when I grew up in Chapel Hill were from Chapel Hill. So you knew people by last names. These are the Edwards, these are the DeGrafferys, these are the Weavers, these were the Farringtons, F-E-F-A. You just kind of knew everybody. So a lot of people who were police officers were people who went to school with my parents, or the people I've been knowing since I was small. Like I knew Bobby Smith, and I knew John Jones Sr., and I know Mr. Robert Brooks. And so I knew those people, and there's the people that I saw, especially at the rec center where my dad worked for so long. Do you think it makes a difference if people live in that neighborhood, they're part of that culture, and they can say, you know what, hey, you're doing that, I'm gonna call your daddy. Like, oh man, don't let this officer see, because I'm not worried about going to jail. I'm worried about you telling my dad. I'm worried about me speeding and you calling Hargraves and telling my dad. Like, that's the fear. Like, I might rather you take me. But, so do you think it makes a difference to live in that community?
I do. I think, and not to go off on tangents, but I think also there's a lot of broken households these days. So I was afraid too. If I got suspended from school, that they were gonna call my mom and dad. I was more scared of my mom, honestly. But there's
Yeah, me
these
too.
these households that it's so sad they're broken, or they might be being raised by people that they view us as the bad guy as well. They're not gonna say, okay, what did my son or daughter do wrong? It's almost like, okay, well, I'm on the offensive for them. I'm gonna, back them up. It's like, well, that's an issue that I think that's part of the talk as well. It's like respect people, respect elders, respect people in a position of authority or something. Respect your teachers, principals, and all that. But there's a loss of that these days.
So let me ask you this, because you bring up a good point. Is when I taught for 12 years, and I knew kids who did not grow up in two-parent households or may not had a male figure in the house. One of the only things they had in front of all these affluent kids from two-parent households or whatever was pride. And I knew I couldn't take that away from them in front of the other kids, because that was gonna make them behave a way that something I wasn't trying to get, but it's like, Coach Dad, man, I can't let you take my pride. Because this is all I got.
Sensitive to
I was like, I had this kid and I said, hey, I said something to him, and he's like, forget you. I said, forget you too. And I said, hey, go back there, I'm gonna call your mom. And he went out the door and took the broom and threw it down, but I got him out in the hall. I was like, man, why are you cutting up like that? And he starts crying, but he couldn't do that out there.
Right.
And I knew that, so I'm not gonna take it to the office.
Right.
But that's all he had. I don't know if, but as an officer, do you have to think so fast that you can't think like that? I know that's a teacher thinking with middle school kids, and I know you can't go, but is that something?
I think it is. I think it is like situational or case by case. But
Yeah, if somebody break in my house, don't come say, hey.
Yeah, yeah. You might know. I don't care if they're 14 or 15. Yeah. I think it is case by case, but luckily it's also getting out in the community and you know who your troubled youth is for real, especially if you work in schools. So if you work off duty and you work in high schools or even the junior high schools, it's like get to know these kids and try to mentor them. So that way when they mess up or they jack up, okay, we're gonna talk man to man kind of. We're not, but like you said, we're not gonna embarrass you in front of people, because that's when they turn up though. Like legit, that's when it gets bad, because that's their pride. And people, they guard their pride with everything, because that's like, hey, don't belittle me. I think it's mentoring as well, though. It really is, like talking to these people. Don't just be a robot. That's why I was working yesterday at Whole Foods, and some lady's like, hey, excuse me, sir, this lady is, maybe 50, 60 years old. I'm like, don't call me sir. Like, just, you could talk to me like I'm a regular person, and that's the problem. I think that maybe there are some people that they do take too much pride in wearing a uniform and maybe having a badge on. We hear the whole badge, bullies with badges and stuff. I'm just a regular dude. That's it.
Now, Mark, we were talking earlier, he just brought something up that we were talking about with sir. Remember you and I were talking about that earlier today?
Oh yeah, just making sure that my children, growing up, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am.
But you said your wife had a different perspective. Isn't that what you told me?
Yeah. Well, see, when they were growing up, I wanted them to say that to me, because again, it's just don't say yeah. I can't say yeah.
I think that's every household.
Right. If you say, I'll say, hey son, yeah. I just want to come across the table, and that's wrong on both accounts. He shouldn't be responding that way, and I shouldn't want to respond that way. But again, as parents, it's funny because we want respect, and we try to teach our children respect. But again, at what point do as I say, not as I do? Or what is it? I want that respect, but again, they're saying on their side, even their teachers, police officers, where's the respect I'm getting? So back to the talk. If they get pulled over or they see somebody in authority and immediately they're judged because of the color of their skin, where's the respect that I should get? Just, hey you, hey, what? The kids are gonna say, why are you talking to me like that? The kids now are more abrasive. They're more, they'll tell you about yourself. And with three children, my kids don't have a problem pulling me to the carpet and telling me about myself. If there's something wrong, now again, I'll receive it, but again, I always tell people it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Right.
And with skin color, with making sure that when you open your mouth, you can put two sentences together and you're not disrespectful toward authority figures, that goes a long way. And so that goes back to part of the talk.
So it seems like, you know, because like I said, growing up, I never got to talk.
Right.
And I got a talk, one that Cole got, and we're gonna have to go behind my boy Jeff and make sure see what he got. He was kind of happy about it. When I first got to talk, I was nervous. I said, Cole is too happy about this. He's like, hey, I don't need this book. Uncle Jeff has taught me everything I said. I said, oh Lord. But it seems like the talk is kind of knowing who you are, and what I think we need in a time like this in our culture, and that's respect. We're saying being respectful to other people, respecting other people's differences, and respecting authority. And I'm not just talking about where the police officer, just people in general. Respecting their lives, respecting their differences, respecting where they come from, respecting just a total person. And I think that's something that my parents taught me. They just didn't call it the talk. And I think that's the reason why I have a good relationship with all you gentlemen that's here, even right now, because we're all different. You know, you got country, Midwest, city. You know, I say fixin' and y'all and finna and stuff like that. You know, I'm a country boy, but until today, there's a lot of things about you guys I did not know. But I think the thing that always made us brothers as we are, brothers in the Lord and brothers as men, is respect. And so I want to thank y'all for helping me identify what's the talk. I've been doing it. My dad, you taught me well, man. Oh, he's over here. Dad, you taught me well. Respect, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. So I respect people, so I guess that's why I got respect. And I enjoy you guys being with us for this episode number 5. Episode number 6, we've been talking about fathers and how to be a father. And one of the conversations that we had today is how to be a good son. I think one of the things that can happen is sometimes if you didn't have a good father relationship and then you come in contact with a mentor, or, you know, one of the concepts that they're using now is kind of cool. People not trying to son anybody anymore. You know, that's unc. You know, uncle has a badge of honor now these days. But I found that if you didn't have a father figure, when that man comes in your life, you may not know how to be a good son. I can think of some NFL players. I was watching a story today, and this football player came in his life, and he was a first-round draft choice, and this other football player was the same, and he tried to help him, but he said, I didn't have a father figure, so I didn't know how to receive what Deion Sanders was giving me. And he was trying to be a father figure. He was trying to be an uncle. So that's what we're going to talk about next time. But appreciate you guys being here with us this evening.